Hi, this is Kenny. I'm one of the founders of Broadstreet, and you might be doing a Broadstreet trial right now to kind of understand what Broadstreet is useful for. I want to show you around the dashboard in a relatively informal way, kind of speak to the things that we're really good at as an ad management company and where you can probably put Broadstreet to its best use. So Broadstreet is an ad manager like many other ad managers out there, but historically we have focused almost exclusively on hyperlocal news, city and regional magazines, industry magazines, and many other niche publishers who all have something in common: direct sales. So 95% of Broadstreet customers have direct sales teams, and they go out and they do the same thing. They try to pitch new advertising clients, they try to get them on board, they try and deliver a great campaign, and ultimately they try and renew that business and repeat that advertiser, keep them on board for the long run. Because the other thing that Broadstreet customers have in common is that they all rely on repeat business. Every single one of Broadstreet's customers relies on those advertisers coming in and staying with them. And there are three big reasons that customers use Broadstreet. The first would be exceptional customer support and service. So if you take a look at G2, which is kind of like a Yelp or Google reviews for software, Broadstreet is the highest rated in its category. We'll take a look at that in a second, but we have a number of reviews that really speak to a few different features of our platform, but also our customer service. So if you do check us out in the publisher ad server software category and see how we stack up in that highest rated, you'll see that Broadstreet's number one, and we have some of our competitors down the list. Many of them are more general purpose. They simply do not have the focus on direct sales that Broadstreet does. Now, if you asked most publishers to really boil Broadstreet down to a single feature, they would probably say ad formats. Broadstreet has the largest library of plug-and-play rich HTML5 ad formats on the internet. So if you take a look at our ad formats gallery page, which is linked from broadstreetads.com homepage, you'll see that we offer ad formats which you can think take the place of standard banner ads, although Broadstreet certainly does serve standard display ads and HTML5 ads that your advertisers might send you. But we have a large number of plug-and-play ad formats that your sales reps can play around with and maybe put something together and bring to a sales meeting. So we cover different advertiser verticals, we cover different use cases. We have some that are inline that kind of behave like standard banner ads but are a bit more interactive. And then we have some that do something different and really compel an advertiser to come on board with you. So if you take a look at some of the different options here, here's an example. This caters to a specific advertiser vertical, a mortgage broker or bank ad. You can see that given recent events, a number of mortgage companies have been doing very well with people refinancing with low interest rates. So our customers asked us, hey, can you build an ad that would let us put something together very quickly for a bank or a mortgage broker? We said, absolutely. So we put that together. We've also had customers in the past that said, hey, we're pitching nonprofits and they're usually raising money for various things, or it could be a political campaign. Can you put something together with maybe a video and a fundraising goal? And you can see that we have this over here on the right. We also have things that perhaps slide up from the bottom. So this is a well-known format called the sneaker. And you might not see that, might be clipped because of my screen capture software, but you can see that slides up from the bottom. Very simple, has an image, a call to action, etc. And then if you scroll down, we have our slideshows. We have one that's very famous at Broadstreet called the Amazing Cube, and a lot of others, some that cater to real estate, again, some that cater to content that your advertisers may have already published. Maybe they have videos sitting around on YouTube. Maybe they have content as, for example, lawyers. A lot of times they have blogs and they post about various cases and their thoughts on how to approach certain issues. That's something to promote their existing content. Coupons, some that are social media integrated, drop downs, billboards that slide down from the bottom of the page. But let's take a quick look at one that's particularly well known at Broadstreet. It's called the Amazing Cube. Now the Cube has been copied by many other ad companies, and poorly at that. And if you take a look at the Cube, it's very simple. It has 6 images that rotate like a cube. It has 6 captions, and this cube, which we kind of did as a proof of concept early on, we didn't expect it to take off, like it did has become one of the best-selling ad formats at Broadstreet. So Broadstreet's customers, their ad sales teams will frequently create a cube, something to have in their pocket for a sales meeting, go to that sales meeting and show an advertiser, hey, we put this cube together, what do you think of this? And you can see that cube comes in many different sizes. There's our 300 by 600, our 728 by 90, the 800 by 600, which is intended for in-story or single column layouts, 970 by 250. This is kind of the more prominent leaderboard that we've seen recently. And we also support some of the latest IAB standards, the 1x1, 4x1 flexible standards that have come out. And if we took a look at these on a mobile device, they would kind of shrink proportionally, like you would see an image shrink proportionally on a mobile device. So our ad formats are great for a couple different reasons. One, you can put them together very quickly for a sales meeting. But two, if you do win that advertiser, you want to deliver great campaign performance, right? We don't want to get them on board and then we have so-so campaign performance. Then it becomes hard to keep them on board. So when you use something different, like the Amazing Cube or the Sneaker, or even something just that incorporates video, if it's something different, it gets the advertiser interested, more likely to move toward that proposal stage, but importantly, it performs much better than a standard banner ad. And we've run tests on the Broadstreet side. They generally perform about 3 to 5 times better than a standard banner ad. So it turns out that when you just change up the creative, it's not only easier to sell, but it's easier to deliver great performance that ultimately leads to the important piece, a renewal, a happy customer who stays with you. So we have 108 different formats. Of course, if you're using Broadstreet, you don't have to use any formats. You can just use this for our banner ad capabilities, but it would be a mistake not to explore our ad formats and maybe pick your 3 to 5 favorites and work those into your media kit. So let's take a look at Broadstreet's dashboard, and we'll take a look at how Broadstreet works. But I did want to mention that third big piece, reporting. Broadstreet delivers great reporting, client-facing reports. Most ad managers will just they make it hard to get the numbers of a campaign in the first place. It's a little clunky. But with Broadstreet, you can generate automatically or kind of as you need reports that really spell out the performance of a campaign. Now, this is just a sample campaign that's been running on our website, so its numbers are going to be a little different than our traditional campaigns that we might see running on the platform. But here's that Amazing Cube. This is the version that's just sitting as an example for people to play with on our recent Amazing Cube sample post, and you can see that it's got a really high click-through rate. That's only possible because it's a sample. In the wild, you'd probably see something to a closer to a 0.5% click-through rate. You can see our events by day. We really map out and tell the story of the campaign, provide a nice breakdown by city. So when people clicked on the ad, when and where did they click? And that's some insight that we provide that nobody else does. We really humanize those numbers as much as we possibly can. We also report on the performance of sponsored content and analytics. So if you have sponsored content as part of your media kit, paid posts, you can see how those posts performed much better with much better clarity than you can with Google Analytics. We'll show how much time people spent on that individual page, which links were clicked inside the article, where users came to see that article, where they came from, could be Facebook, Twitter, etc. So we provide as much insight into those reports to really help you raise the bar. Your competitors are not delivering reports of these clarity. So let's take a look at Broadstreet's dashboard. So we have an example account here. I'm going to go ahead and walk through a few different things. If we click into zones, when a customer wants to work with Broadstreet, we usually send them a service proposal. So if you haven't received one, you can reach out to our team, ask for a service proposal. We'll send over our pricing, how our platform works, our timeline. Once you give us the green light, what we'll do is make some recommendations for your site. Now, we might mimic what you might already have on your site, but we'll also make recommendations for things that sell really well for our other customers. So we'll create these things called zones, which are basically containers for ads that will sit on your site. So if you have a leaderboard at the top of your website right now, that would be considered a zone. Or if you have a position in your sidebar or maybe in story where an ad appears, that would be called a zone. So our team or your team can go ahead and create zones, and I'll create a sample zone right here. We'll go ahead and say leaderboard top. Now, we don't have to give a zone a specific size. That's one thing that makes Broadstreet unique. The sizes are very flexible. Over time, as standards change, you can run custom sizes, you can run standard sizes, whatever you need to put in that site. By default, Broadstreet is mobile responsive, so you can be sure that your ads are always appearing the way you expect them to appear on the site. And if we want to implement on this on the site, we have two options. If you're just using a standard website, you can go ahead and put this header code in the header of the template that you're using for your website. Of course, our team can do this as part of onboarding. That's just included in our service. And then we also have our zone code. So this header code goes on the site once. You don't have to do it again after that. And then you'll go ahead and paste this zone code on your site where that actual container for an ad should appear. So this would probably go in that leaderboard spot on the page. So it's a really simple setup. If you're on WordPress, the Broadstreet plugin for WordPress, if you Google WordPress Broadstreet, it makes it even easier. You can go ahead and get that set up on your site. And then the day-to-day for your typical user of Broadstreet happens from this home screen. Now, who typically uses Broadstreet? It can be anybody. It can be the publisher themselves. It can be the ad sales director if there is one. It can be an ad sales rep. No matter who it is at the company, they find that Broadstreet is really easy to use, very intuitive, and it usually only takes about a half hour to an hour to get up and running. So let's just say we have a meeting with a new potential client. I'm going to use Chipotle, Chipotle Mexican Grill as an example. And we'll go ahead and say, okay, I have a sales meeting with Chipotle in about an hour, and I want to have something in my pocket to really show them. I don't want to just work off a media kit and try and get them to buy something based on paper. I really want to show them what they could be running on our site. So what we'll do is we'll click New Advertiser, and we'll just give it a name. So Chipotle Mexican Grill. And once we create that advertiser account and create an advertisement, and those advertisements are going to live under this advertisement account, whether they're actively running or not. So we want to create a sample for Chipotle. Again, this is just something to bring to a sales meeting. They may end up using this, they may not. They may have their own creatives that their corporate team put together, and they'll send you those. But this is a way to really set yourself apart in that sales meeting. So we'll go ahead and search for that cube. For example, we'll search for that, and you can see that our ad formats are broken down into many different categories here, one of them being quick spec or mock-up, something that we can put together for a sales meeting. We'll create that amazing cube. Now we have the side-by-side editor. You do not have to be a designer to design an attractive ad with our ad editor here. So what we're going to do is give a name, Chipotle. Maybe I'll just call that Chipotle Cube. Right now we have a 300 by 250. We'll change that at the end so we can see it in leaderboard style. I would probably want to go to Chipotle's website, grab their URL. Whatever their landing page is for the URL, we'll go ahead and plop that in. And then finally, I'm going to start building this cube, and it's very step-by-step. Anybody can follow this. So if you're kind of wondering, can my staff do this? Can I do this? Yes, you absolutely can. We're going to pick that Chipotle logo right here. And of course, I skipped over it, but you can upload your own files and upload those, or you can use our Google image search functionality right here to kind of grab files that might be floating around on the internet. Because it's your client, you can certainly use those files to pitch them. And then we also have integrations with stock photo services if you need something, just as an example, some attractive imagery to use. We're going to go ahead and pick this Chipotle logo here, and you can see if I wanted to edit this photo, I could do that. I could crop it, I could change the colors, but for right now, I'm going to leave this. This looks perfect. I'm going to go ahead and set that logo. In fact, we might want to crop that. You can see that logo appears a little small, so why don't we go ahead and crop that? So now we should see our Chipotle logo a little bigger. We could also grab that square logo, and we'll see how it appears when we grab that leaderboard version a little bit later. Well, now let's scroll down. I'm not going to go ahead and change the captions just so you don't have to watch me do all of that. But what I can do is now go ahead and say, okay, Chipotle, let's grab some images for Chipotle. I'm going to grab this nice looking burrito bowl right here. I'm going to maybe grab another one here. That looks nice. And we have about 4 more to go, so I'm going to find some of the most attractive ones, obviously, because we want our advertiser to look at it and say, yeah, that looks really good. And this obviously probably isn't the location, but if we did qualify the search by saying Chipotle and then the location that you're hunting for, you'll probably find an image of it online. And then we'll grab one more. I didn't want to grab this one because it looked a little messy, but why not? It's later on in the cube, so we can do that. So now we have this cube, and you can see it's appearing right in the side right here. We have all those images automatically cropped and squared to fit in that cube. And then what we'll do is we'll finally change the layout here because maybe we want something big and prominent, like a 970 by 250. So we have a logo, looks really good. Again, I didn't change those captions, but that cube is looking great. And we're going to scroll down and create this advertisement. And you can see that Broadstreet produces the cube. So if we do have that meeting, something we might want to do is go ahead and get a preview link for this ad on our website. So that's something else that none of your competitors are doing. None of them are giving a potential advertiser an exact visual of what they could be working with, but especially not on the site itself. So you can go ahead and say, hey, show me what this ad would look like in our top leaderboard zone. And I could paste in my URL here. We'll hold on to that for later and generate a preview URL. And that URL will show you what that ad will look like without anybody else seeing it. So it's not like it's actually live. It's just a preview URL. And getting that visual is so powerful in moving that advertiser toward that proposal stage. If and when the client says, okay, let's give it a go, what we'll do is we'll say, okay, let's run this. Maybe we'll run it from July 1st and we'll run it through the end of October, just picking a random date there. We'll pick leaderboard top as the place where it should run. We'll save that. And now that campaign will go live automatically on the 1st of July and it'll end automatically in October. And if you're curious about the other features of the ad manager, here are the things that most ad managers will do. So maybe we want to set an impression target, maybe 100,000 impressions. Most of Broadstreet's customers sell on a flat rate, so unless you're dealing with an advertiser who specifically requests an impression-based campaign, you probably won't need this feature. But we can go ahead and set caps. We can set how the campaign displays. Of course, you can run multiple ads in a campaign. They can run in the same zone, different zones, and we can also pace out those impressions. Maybe we want those impressions spread out evenly over time. We can do device targeting, so we could say, hey, this should only appear on desktop or mobile or something like that, phones. We can also move on to this keywords page. Now, if you have a part of your website, maybe you have a business part or a food and dining page where you want those ads to appear, your WordPress categories will automatically pop up as keywords. And if you aren't using WordPress, we can also make it so that we can detect the categories that your given platform uses. So if you're using Squarespace or Drupal or Wix, or you just have a totally custom website that your team built over time, you can go ahead and use this keywords functionality too, but you'll probably just want to integrate that. If you click on this little question mark here, that'll take you to a nice overview of how that works. Weighting. If you do want to run programmatic ads or any backfill ads, commonly Google AdSense or Sovereign or Ezoic or the many other providers out there, you typically want to run those as remnant ads or perhaps house campaigns. If you have a sponsorship, somebody that should always take precedence over everybody else, especially common with that section targeting with keywords, you can go ahead and pick that sponsorship weight, but most people just probably leave it as the default. And campaigns will naturally split their share of voice across different campaigns. So if we have two campaigns targeted to the same zone, then those campaigns will switch off 50-50. So if you're curious about what a campaign is really just the glue between one or more ads and one or more zones. It basically says, make these ads go live in these positions on these dates. And then geo-targeting, of course, if your client requests it, or that's just part of your model, almost anything that you can target with Google Maps, you can target with our geo-targeting right here. So you can target down to the zip code. You can target by actual state. You can do exact match, radius match. You can target by country. So a lot of different options there. So if it does come up, you certainly have that. When the campaign is running, of course, you're going to be interested in those analytics. So we'll come back and we'll say, okay, let's take a quick look at how our campaigns are doing or how we're doing overall. We could click global reporting on the top of the page. Since this is an example account, I don't have a lot of data here, but every ad that's running, we would see a nice snapshot of how that's doing with the ability to download as a spreadsheet. We can also view our campaign status, and we can see take a look at all our campaigns, how far they are through our campaign, total number of impressions, clicks, all the stuff we're going to need to know, and of course download that as well. Upcoming expirations and recent campaign expirations. But if we want to generate something that's a little more client facing like we saw before, we could just click into that Chipotle Mexican Grill advertiser, click overall reporting, and then click extended report. Now we don't have a logo on this account, so we just kind of have an example account placeholder right here. This would be your logo, your background color, and we get that nice report that we saw generated earlier. Now that's Broadstreet in a nutshell. A few other things that we do. If you have a newsletter and you run advertising in your newsletter, you can run Broadstreet campaigns right inside your newsletter just like you would on your website. So that same process I went through, you can run ads inside your newsletter positions, and that's really simple. We would just create one or more zones for your newsletter. Of course, your team could again do that too. Click Get Zone Code. We get static code. We would place this in our newsletter. There's some caveats to what you can do in a newsletter. You can primarily run static ads, so you can't really have animation. That's really a limitation of newsletters themselves or emails. We would absolutely run a cube in a newsletter if we could, but until the day where that's supported, you kind of have certain ad formats that you have to stick to. You can read more about that and how to integrate in newsletters via this link right here. So one other thing that we do, we'll pop over to Bethesda Magazine. And if we take a look at one of their articles, we'll take a look and say, okay, we have these ads in the sidebar, but you know that on mobile devices, typically those ads get pushed all the way to the bottom of the page, right? So that's something we really want to avoid. And because we're so focused on our publishers and their relationships with advertisers, we want to make sure that you don't have any conversations with your clients and they might say, hey, how come my ad's at the bottom of the page? So you can see that their ads from their sidebar became automatically integrated into their content based on their rules. So they said, hey, every 3 paragraphs, can we put an ad from the sidebar into our content on a mobile device? And this brought up the click-through rate of a number of our publishers about 5 times. So the ability to do that is so powerful. And we do that, of course, because we're focused on your success. We're always focused on the success of anybody in direct sales. So give Broadstreet a good review. We're happy that you're exploring it. If you have any questions, reach out to frontdesk@broadstreetads.com. We'd be happy to help you. And if you would like to set up another call, a more formal call to really discuss things with our team, give us a shout and we'd be happy to do that too. Take care.